Good evening, gents. Waiting for someone to get off what they're doing and give them a ride. Thought I'd do a quick little video. I've been exploring some groups online. There's a lot going on right now as I record this that looks pretty kind of, crappy for the United States socially. And so I am exploring some groups, and I've run into some stuff that I think isn't entirely accurate and could use a breakdown. And I don't know how widespread this is. I don't know how these attitudes diffuse through society, but I thought I'd give you just a little tiny bit of positive brain science here. All right. Someone said that low-grade stress, your reaction to low-grade stress, is an indicator of how you would respond in a high-stress situation. And there's so much that goes into that is just, you can't say that and have it mean anything. It's not true. It's not useful. It's not... it's not even useful enough to be like a pragmatic basis for anything. Here's the deal, all right? One of the examples used is, if you have low-grade stress, your girlfriend bitches at you because you did an Instagram thing, and then you just go off on her, right? Overreact to the max. Well, you don't overreact to the max because of one incident of low-grade stress. Probably what's going on, almost certainly what's going on, is that you're dealing with a chronic low-grade stress situation. And that can eat you alive, all right? It does not mean that you won't respond positively in a high-stress situation. In fact, there is a psychological tendency in some people to find high-stress situations so that they don't have to continue to suffer chronic low-grade stress. You'll find this in, for example, parts of the prepper community and also in large parts of the Antifa community. They don't like their lives. Their lives are stressful. It's a low-grade chronic stress, day in, day out, constant cortisol. The parasympathetic nervous system never shuts off. And here's the thing. A revolution will fix that, man. Zombie apocalypse is great. High stress. Ooh. Now you translate that desire into practice and you end up with certain types of adrenaline junkies. You'll find this with firefighters. You'll find this with police officers. It's really a bad idea in police officers. It's a bad idea in firefighters. One of the reasons that you will have firefighters turn to arson is exactly that tendency to need the high stress situation. Okay, you also find this in the military. You find this in very specific parts of the military, and it is an absolutely fantastic thing if you can harness it, manage it, use it properly. But you have to be able to do that. So how you respond to low-grade stress is not necessarily any kind of indicator about how you're going to respond to high-stress environments or situations. The problem with low-grade stress is that you need to have a break from it. The vast majority of people in the United States right now, especially if they consume media or have a large debt load or have a health issue caused by diet, these seem to be the three big things here. The vast majority of these people suffer from constant low-grade chronic stress. It's low stress, and they just blow up at random times. You blow up at random times. Boom, 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 boom. You never know what's going to set you off, and that's because low-grade stress is your life. And that doesn't mean that you're going to collapse with high-grade stress. It doesn't mean you're going to overreact with a high-stress environment. They're totally different things. You respond completely differently, and you do have imprints that control those responses. So, for example, if you've imprinted on dogs in a particular manner, dogs are a really easy one, the dog bite, the dog cuddle, the dog friend, whatever, you may have a completely different reaction to one or another situation with the dog, a high stress situation. I've seen people just have dogs attack them and somehow magically just fucking calm the situation down, and I've seen people just like completely curl up in a ball. It's like magic, okay? There are people who can deal with any type of high-stress emergency situation as if nothing's happening. Like their heart rate never gets above 75. And then there are people who just collapse. There are people who get excited and run towards the danger. There's a whole lot of different responses. You can program those responses. You can modify your behaviors. You can even search out and redo your imprints. But the point is, low-grade stress does not really successfully indicate how you're going to respond with a high-stress situation. And again, a lot of that is because low-grade stress is usually chronic, especially right now. Chronic. As I record this, we're in early August of 2020. I feel like it's necessary to put the history in because America's going through some really weird shit right now. So while this is true, and this would have been true in 2010, would have been true in 2005, right now it seems especially important because much of America has been forced into a state of very severe, chronically severe, low-grade stress for at least the last 3 months. It is making people crazy. It's driving them to suicide. It's making people like hit each other over masks. I just had to do a second take on this video because there was a lady driving through the parking lot yelling at me for riding my bike. I'm not sure what that's about. It's the beginning of the month, and the first week of the month, sometimes the money flows and the mind-altering substances also flow. So maybe there was something there. I don't have a bicycle with me with the trucks, so I don't know what's going on. How you respond to high-stress environments is pretty critical. Okay, that's actually a really important thing. And it's a really good source of growth, pride, self-accomplishment, self-actualization. Because to be able to respond to a high-stress environment in a positive manner is a matter of self-worth, okay? A couple of years ago at my house, next door to my house, there was a fire. It was two properties down. And the fire got bad, out of control. There were like propane tanks blowing up in the air. It was kind of freaky. And I got I got the younger kids, the girls, into the back of a pickup truck, ready to go if things got bad, with the dogs. Livestock, just gonna do what you can, but you're not gonna save the livestock, right? And I got my son, and we got out the hoses that we had, and we got out, we're using well pressure, and there's nothing there, and no hydraulic pump on the tractor at the time, so I couldn't draw off the canal. We start wetting everything down, and we wet the neighbors' houses down, and we potentially saved one of the houses because there was a lot of embers and a lot of heat. Like, we had to walk back and forth with doing the hose until the fire department arrived. Eventually, the fire department did arrive. It wasn't a particularly long time. It's just we're out in the middle of nowhere, right? But my son responded with a kind of creative energy that was just amazing to me. Okay? Never have been more proud of anyone than that moment. Like, I'm doing the angry veteran thing. I am just yelling and screaming, do this, do this, do this, do this. Repetitive, because that's how you handle emergencies. There's military training. You say what needs to be done. Same thing over and over and over until it's happening. You can wait for a read back. Sometimes you can't. Anyway, he goes out and he gets after it, and it's just high stress situation. And his response was something to be proud of, like something that he can trust himself. You can train that. You can train that into yourself, even if you think that you don't have it or you have bad imprints about it. The key, of course, is to pick your high-stress environment. Not everyone's high-stress environment is going to involve or should involve firearms, weapons, Antifa riots, whatever. Maybe it is fighting a fire. Maybe it is responding to a cut, someone falling on the ground, on the pavement out in public. You don't think, oh, that's super high stress, but man, you see that blood oozing out or spurting out, it's pretty high stress, There's stuff. There's always a way, and sometimes you can access a high stress environment without any kind of emergency or harm for other people, That's one reason people do things like rappelling or rock climbing. You can get there. But the response and the after effects of that high stress situation are completely different from the triggers of ongoing low grade stress. That is really the main point of this video. Low grade stress is not really closely related to high incident stress. They're not the same thing. And you there's another example of the kid who just gets picked on by the bully, and he just snaps. Okay? And things don't go well for him, or he ends up like severely damaging the bully, and then things don't go well for him. The point there is that that's not a high stress situation. He may have created one by snapping. He may have actually elevated himself out of chronic low-grade stress into high stress so that he could do something. Big deal, all right? Think about it from that way. Reframe what you're seeing, okay? You're seeing low-grade stress, pain stress, and it's a losing stress, okay? It's not just I'm forced to go to work. It's an absolute I'm being tortured by someone else stress. And then you snap. The reason you snapped isn't because of low-grade stress, or maybe it's because, but the snap itself is not low-grade stress. The snap itself is a high-stress incident, and you may have created that high-stress incident to escape constant low-grade stress. I really need to say that because this is going around in the veteran and the prepper and the alternative communities that I am a part of right now. And you need to understand that there are different ways of looking at this, different ways of talking about this. There's different things going on, okay? The guy who can't handle the suckage of his day job every day, he works at the DMV and he hates it or whatever. Low-grade stress. That doesn't mean that he's a bad person because he doesn't respond well to it. How do you respond properly to low-grade stress? Like, how do you do it? And, you have to dissolve it. That's the only way you can do that is to not have it. And, some people snap because they've spent their whole day's effort minimizing that stress, getting over that stress. They get home and they're like, breathe. And then, why'd you do that Instagram like? Ugh! Snap. Right? It's not because of an incident of low-grade stress, it's because of chronic low-grade stress. Anyway, dissolve it, remove it, alleviate it, solve it. That's what you got, man. Ignore it doesn't really work. There's a kind of ignoring where you dematerialize it, where you de-reality it. It's not really deconstruction because that's a specific phrase people use in academia now. But you uncreate it. You can do that. Just ignoring it and hoping it goes away doesn't work. You have to make it not real. And there are ways you can do that. Like with media, just turn it off. You can make it not real and boom, it really does fade. Okay? With something else like job stress, bill stress, whatever, you have to do something. You have to alleviate it. You have to get rid of it. There are times where getting rid of it means putting on a backpack and taking off. start over, new life, new city, whatever. You can do that when you're single. It's a lot harder when you have kids, right? So you have the answer to low-grade stress is to figure it out, face it, dissolve it, alleviate it, remove it. Also, coping mechanisms, like figuring out some basic things to do, because it will build up in you if you don't solve some of the reaction issues. Okay, so go for a walk, meditate, exercise until you fall down if you need to. The stress coping techniques are well known. They're basic. There's some very basic. Look up positive psychology, find some videos. There's some self-talk you can do. Exercises, basic meditation, basic mindfulness meditation, 15 minutes to 1 hour. 1 hour gives you some significant brain changes that you don't get for 15 minutes, but even 2 minutes can make a huge difference in your life. Exercise. So getting outside and walking outside is a multi-level benefit, de-stressor. It hits you on a whole bunch of different levels. Movement, gait is a core human movement, but also the experience of the outdoors really triggers good chemicals in our brains, okay? Also, sitting is bad for your gut. Just remember, you have as many neurons there as you do here, so that's a thing. Exercise, heavy, stressful exercise is a really good way to do it. You can get addicted to it, which is not necessarily bad. It depends, as long as you're not making yourself sick. And that's about it. Low-grade stress is not indicative of high-stress incidents. Low-grade stress is usually chronic, and it's a very big problem right now. And if you really feel that you're having problems with that, you might want to go solve those problems. Look for ways to solve it. Anyway, don't judge a person based on their response to low-grade chronic stress. Don't judge yourself based on a response to low-grade chronic stress, because right now, I feel like pretty much the entire world is sitting there trying to make that happen to you every day. Whether it's the media, social media, government, administrative procedures, whatever it is, let it go. One of the best things you can do is let it go. But don't blame yourself if low-grade stress causes you to get a little negative sometimes. It has nothing to do with your ability to survive in a high-stress situation. All right, have a good one, and stay sideways.